Call the meeting to order at 10:45. First order of business is the minutes from November 10th. Are you looking over? Did you look over them?
Yeah,
They look
I
fine.
move we accept the minutes.
Here a second.
A second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Nice job, Debbie. You did a good job putting those all together. A lot of work there. Okay, review briefly the construction monitoring service, CMS, who's coming in this one with 11 for interview questions and any particular items that you want to talk about before they come in.
So, Mr. Chairman, these questions are the same questions that have been asked
Okay,
of the other firms, and actually, we didn't ask all these questions because their presentations covered
right.
a lot of the topics in the questions, so there was no
Right.
need to ask the question because it had already been answered in advance. So it does follow the same areas of, introductions, finding out about the firm, OPM experience, and then OPM experience in public safety buildings, police and fire combined, direct experience on that. And then also some of the aspects of OPM services, keeping on budget, schedules, then the whole area on the clerk of the works, experience in some of the energy efficiency, design and construction, and some experience on a closeout.
Okay, yep, very good. Anything you want to bring up, Joe?
No, I thought, we went through the questions, and as you said, that usually in their background, in their presentation, they cover quite a few of the questions, and we get some specifics on the clerk of the works and their OPM experience.
Yeah, I thought they were very, very good. I think I learned a lot actually from the information we gleaned from both companies, and I assume we'll hear the same things today. So,
Right.
anything else you want to take? We'll take a recess until 11 o'clock.
Okay,
I'll take a motion for a recess.
I move that we recess until 11 o'clock.
So it'll be
Second.
just you and.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in recess.
Yeah.
Session from our
Move that we
recess.
resume our session.
second.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Welcome. You're the third of 3 interviews.
Okay.
Just want to let you know that it's being video and audio recorded.
All right.
We did the other 2 interviews on Thursday, and nothing's been shown on TV. We're not live on TV. This will be
Yes.
shown at a later point, and
Okay.
our master of ceremonies for the video equipment is going to put all 3 interviews together, so that nobody has an advantage or a disadvantage or anything like that. So once he gets that done, this way it gives the voters a chance to see all 3 interviews if they're interested, and it gives the other selectmen a chance to see the interviews. And the plan here is we have a selectmen's meeting tonight, but a town meeting, basically for a bunch of other things, and we're selectmen meeting next Monday night, which I'm anticipating that we will probably make a decision as to who the finalists will be, and the selectmen will take that vote a week from tonight. So
Very good.
just so you know.
Yep. Okay.
I think that pretty well covers it. Anything, Debbie, did I?
No, that's it.
Okay, so based on that, then, if you want to we're looking for a brief
Yep.
presentation, and then we're going to follow up with, on the 2 previous interviews, we found that a lot of our questions were answered in the presentation you make for all your openings. So, depending on what you have to say, we'll follow up with a number of questions, and we look forward to. We're learning a lot, believe me, from the discussions we've had, and I'm sure we're going to.
I understand.
Get some new information from you guys. We're all amateurs as far as these kind of projects go. So, with that said, welcome, and maybe introduce yourselves for the TV audience. And
Sure. Yep. I'm Paul Griffin.
My name is Neil Joyce.
the company is.
Construction Monitoring Services, better known as CMS. And I started this company with another gentleman. Now it's almost 18, 19 years ago. From a need that at the time I was the chairman of the high school building committee in Mashpee. And I never asked to be even on the committee. I was asked to come on as a alternate. In a month I was a member, and then 2 months later, I was chairman.
Chairman.
That's leadership.
Okay, 6 years later, I got off of that thing, because we didn't have a high school. The kids went to Falmouth. And but it was a very interesting thing. I, at the time, petitioned the state, which is now not the MSBA, but back then was the Department of Ed, to hire a owner's project manager, not knowing that they were far and few between. I really had to search out, and I did hire this company. And even though the state said, no, we don't reimburse, I finally got them to convince to do it during the design, and then I ended up doing it during the construction. Good thing, because we had a contractor that the town defaulted twice, and ultimately the bonding company, we didn't terminate the contract, but the bonding company come in and supplemented the contractor to try to keep it clean. At the end of that, the Department of Ed called me up and said, we'd really like you to consider being a project manager. He says, we really need this service. We never had any idea how valuable it was. So with that, I started it, and we've done actually very, very well. We did better when it wasn't required, because we didn't have much competition and everybody wanted us. And luckily, we've completed over 50 projects. I don't know how many it is, in over 30 communities, and we've never had a job that we've had a problem in that we couldn't solve. All of our jobs have come in under budget and on time. The beauty of that is that we've had 4 jobs where the contractor has gone bankrupt. We had to bring in the bonding company. Every one of them, we had had enough money where the bonding company was very satisfied to come in and complete the job, including one that we just had up in Stowe. And it's so interesting, but when the contractor closes doors, the bonding company looked at the information, and I called him before he called me, and he knew me right away. First thing he says, Paul, just tell me you have enough money. I said, we got plenty of money. Bingo. We had somebody, he had a new contractor on the job in 7 days.
Wow. Stowe, Mass?
Stowe,
Yeah.
the school. And here's the interesting thing. The guy closed the doors on the 25th of June. We had opened the school on September 1.
Wow.
We worked around the clock
Wow.
to get it open. And then we had a lot of cleanup to do, but at least the kids were able to go to school. So, I mean, I think that...
Made for an interesting summer.
Yeah,
You didn't get a vacation?
Not that year.
I think what separates us between our competition is our desire to have a hands-on. When we come in, we want to be the executive secretary to this town. And we want to be what you're hiring as a project manager. We don't want to put any nails in the wood. We don't want to do any of that. You're hiring an architect and you're hiring a builder. But we want to make sure they perform. And the other thing we want to do is that there's a lot of incidentals that come up through this whole project where you'll find your team put up their hands and say, well, it's not my responsibility. Well, whose is it? If you're the owner's project manager, you're the town. And they kind of walk away from all of these things. You know, we make sure that the movers are hired, whoever is needed, all your equipment, everything else. We want to be deeply involved. We want those things to come through us. Matter of fact, on Hyannis, I just went and wrote a procedure for the committee, which they're going to dictate to the building committee, that outlines how things get purchased. They have to come to us first. We have to verify that we think there's a need. We then have to verify there's money. And then we go to the committee and ask for approval. And then all the bills come through us so that it doesn't get carried away with, the chief trying to buy one thing and somebody else trying to buy another, and it gets out of hand. I mean, so many jobs we've had where we ask for a schedule of bills paid, and we look and we said, where did all this other money come from? Somebody just threw it in the pot. And that's how a project gets out of control. What we don't want to do is ever have you have a situation where you've expended more money than you've been authorized to do. Can't happen. And so, sometimes people think we're a little bit anal, but that's what we have to make sure. At the same time, I think we want to make sure that you get a building that you want. I mean, so many of the architects have used this phrase for so many years, and a couple of committees, I had 2 architects on, they almost jumped across the table. But architects like to be honest. The problem is that they go off and say, oh, no, we know what you need. Well, no, that's not what the customer's asking for. And it's our job to kind of bring them together and to make sure that you know what you're getting, so that the day you walk in the building, you say, this is not what I thought I bought. I mean, that's our job. Go ahead.
So just backing up a little bit, Paul and I did our first work together in early 2000. I was his contractor. Fortunately, I didn't go bankrupt. We did a job in Concord together, and we finished the job 6 months early, returned over $1 million back to the community, and that began our relationship together. I left shortly thereafter in the downturn in 2007, and I joined Paul in 2008 and became a partner in 2012. Prior to that, I've been a general contractor. I worked in general contracting in all manners and sorts for almost 20 years. I've done everything from superintendents, earthwork, to finish, estimating, change orders. I've done a lot. So I bring a little bit of a different perspective than Paul does to a project. I look at it very hands-on, very nuts and bolts, making sure all the pieces and parts are there. I see my role in estimating a project during design, making sure that we're staying on budget, making sure that what's on the plans matches what your expectations are on all the design discussions and talks with the architect that we'll have between now and then, making sure that the chiefs are comfortable with what they're getting, and then transitioning through that, rolling into bidding, soliciting and making sure that we have the right contractors bidding the project. We have coverage for all the sub-trades. And then ultimately we get to bidding. We go through permitting, we go through construction administration, and we make sure that the town gets what they bought and what they paid for. And we take great pride in managing that quality process throughout construction. We sit in on every job meeting, we sit on every design meeting. We have a presence on the job site every day, and we make sure that, like I said, the town gets what they paid for. And ultimately, you know, if it says screw it every 6 inches on center, that's what you get. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Inevitably, there will be problems that come up. They come up on every job, unforeseen. I know part of this project is a renovation project, so I'm sure there'll be some question marks that we'll have going into bid time. We'll watch those and we'll monitor those, and we'll make sure that they don't bite you in the behind in your schedule. It's usually managing the unforeseens and managing the unknowns is really the beauty to bringing a job in on time and on budget, is making sure you stay on them, making sure you're very proactive and you address the problems before they impact the overall schedule.
One of the things, as I said, we did over 50 projects. Do you know, we've had 4 that went bankrupt. Do you know that we've had no project ever go to litigation? It's incredible. I mean, when I say to a customer during the interview that we believe in a team approach, I mean, that's what it is. If we got a problem on a job, I bring our team together, the architect, the contractor, and us, and we try to find a solution. When I bring something to the board to say we got a problem, I always have that solution in hand. I'm never going to bring you a problem without the solution, because I don't want anybody here that's putting in extra time for this project to feel that now we've passed the hot potato to them. The hot potato is us. And one way or another, I've been able to solve almost everything I could, including we had one of the worst contractors we had. It's now got to be 15 years ago. Worse in the state. And I'm going to tell you, at the end of the project, he had submitted 400 in the last 90 days, PCOs for extra claims. And let me tell you, he wanted somewheres around 500,000. We agreed there was some stuff that belonged to the town. We settled for 100,000. And I got to tell you, I mean, when I tell you days, it was more like weeks of time sitting down and negotiating out every one of the items. I mean, actually, the owner of the contract firm tried to throw me out of his office. He really did. I mean, he said, "No, what are going to do? We're going to go to court." I said, "Okay." Picked up my stuff. He says, "Then it's off of my plate. I'll talk to the attorney." And his assistant said, hey, well, hold on, we don't want to do this. He knew that he had a bunch of problems.
Right.
But I mean, you know, it's, I think that so many of our competitors come in and say, oh, we have engineers, we have architects. I can tell you, and you can talk to any one of my references, they'll tell you that I can sit there with some of the most talented people in the design team and give them a run for their money. I've been doing it so long, and before this, I worked for two New York 500 corporations, and this is what I did. Not only did I have to build them, but then I had to manage the space that I built for people. And now, not all of it was owned. We had quite a bit, but the rest of it was leased. And I had 101 locations in all of New England, upstate New York, Michigan, and half of Canada. And so I not only had to have to construct them, but then I had to meet the annual budget. So why this is important is because when I come into a job and start looking at it, give you an idea, one of the things I would say to this architect during design is, okay, where's the chair rail on the back there? Because now this is a meeting room. If you turn around, you're going to see all the scratches. And it's interesting, you can see where they patched them in the past. Okay, I mean, it's simple things like that, you know. The carpet, if they spill coffee in this carpet, what's going to happen? You know, are you going to be able to get it out? Are you going to be able to see that stain if it's just a little drip? Are they going to have to wash it every week? I mean, you know, it's very simple things like this that ultimately what my mind is, not only to bring this project in budget, but it's also to make sure you have the lowest operating cost you can have, you know, without going crazy. You know, some of the things that the energy code is getting so difficult. But I'll give you an idea. We had a school, they put in this sophisticated lighting system. And so every fixture, they were going this way. And what happened is the sensor would determine how much light. If it had too much light, it would start dimming the fixtures this way. So what happened is the teachers drew the blinds. They've got plenty of sunlight, they're drawing the blinds, the fixtures are on 100%. They probably spent $200,000 for that system, and they don't use it. And so, you know, I think those are some of the things that we're going to try to bring to the table. Let's keep it simple. A small town like this doesn't want to have a full-time guy just maintaining this building. You know, you just want it to run and run well. And I think that's what we try to bring to the table.
Questions? What else can we offer?
Just to start off with
Yeah,
one
go ahead.
comment, you make sure all of the walls go all the way up to the ceiling. We have,
No, but you know, that's an important issue because of sound transmission. I
Right.
mean, you know, for years, especially back in the 70s and 80s, everybody said, oh, look at, we'll go lease the space, we'll make it cheap. What they do is they ran the ceiling all the way down and they just ran these walls up to the thing. And you could hear the guy next door, you could almost do a conference call between the two of you.
yeah,
You know,
Yeah.
that's a problem.
yeah, yeah. Of course, our budget has been set last spring,
Yes.
Yep.
and so you know that.
Yep.
Yes.
With I guess Carell did the thing.
Right.
We did a job with Carell at the Sudbury
Sudbury Police
Station. You know.
Yeah, can I ask, if you looked at the site out there,
Yes.
Yep.
and you looked at the schematics that Corel
Yes.
put together for us?
We did.
Can you just kind of give us an assessment of the site and Corel when we asked them to put together their schematics and their part of the job for us to get a price, that they put two separate buildings.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're renovating the police station, the fire station is being moved up there also.
Right.
So you could kind of give us from what you observed about the schematics that were drawn, and I don't mean to critique them in that sense.
No, I understand.
But I'm looking, we're looking at it, are we better off with a single building, a double building? Or was it, we designed the schematics show two separate buildings
Right.
based on a building? And then the other thing is the site. And we've had some concerns about, you know, how much site work might have to be done, and maybe just give us a quick assessment on, you know, we're looking at, we understand it.
Sure.
It's brief, but at least give us an idea of
Well-
of what you see and how you would handle what's there.
Let me just, and to be fair, I mean, we don't know the real details of how Greg got told all this stuff. I did have a conversation with him, and he said, oh, you know, that was a year ago, and he says it was just a real simple schematic and, you know, to make sure that we could try to do anything to kind of get pricing. And so I said, I understand, Greg, but one of the things that, if I'm gonna put my hat on and say, what's your lowest operating expenses gonna be, and the best way to do it is really ultimately, in some way, some fashion, to have one building. I mean, yeah, it may not be a door between the two entities, you know, but like we're doing in Hudson,
Right.
we're doing a police station and a DPW. They wanted the same main entrance, but then police go this way and DPW goes this way, and there's nowhere in between is there a door. So, but you can imagine right away, if you do that, you're joining one big exterior wall, you're eliminating. You have a lot of shared utilities, so you can have one boiler room, you can have one electrical room. Yeah, your communications are gonna be totally different, but you can see the advantages of doing that. Now, these both being life safety buildings, you can see you're gonna have the whole building on a generator anyways, emergency power. So it's not like trying to break that up. It says, is there advantage? What you're gonna have to do is, if you did two separate buildings, potentially you're gonna have to have two different generators, and two different services. And so they, in my mind, now, don't forget, I'm looking at this here and trying to look at my crystal ball
Right.
and say, you know, what's happening here? And so I think there is some advantages to bring it together, but not knowing the politics and everything else, I don't want to say that that's our decision right now. You guys.
It seemed like there was a suggestion that some of the reasoning that he used to come to the solution was that the modular building could stay in place while the police station was being
Yeah,
renovated.
that was the prime. In other words, there'd be no need to have any temporary
Right.
facilities, blah, blah, blah.
Right.
Right.
Whether it works out, might be cheaper to move it or do something different,
Right.
I don't know, but I mean, that's a decision that would.
No, and that's
So
one of the things we'd have to
that's
study.
what we kind of have to look
Because
at.
that was the.
and
We
look
talked
at
about
the
that,
Two
phasing.
separate
you know?
buildings.
Yep.
And the other thing I noticed was that you're in a very fortunate situation in that it appears as though you're going to save the cell blocks.
Yeah,
In
cell
the
block, the
existing
police, the
PD?
basic station is gonna stay the same.
Right.
And that, whatever you see in that modular building, is all basically office space.
Right.
And, you know, with, police offices, lockers and things
Yeah.
like that, would be what we, under this plan, would be moving into the new
Right.
building on the other side. So
Detention areas are
Detention
very,
area might need some upgrades and, you know, some, you know, whatever the current codes, I'm sure they're probably a little different. The dispatch has been redone totally in recent years. It may be a little bit tighter than what they want, but, you
Right.
know, they may be able to do a little bit of work in there. But yeah, those two, which are very expensive to deal
I was
with.
just going to
Right.
say, those are your
Those
two
are
most
huge.
expensive
Right.
expenses within an existing facility. The only other question I was going to ask was, have you considered combined dispatch?
We do have, the police handle, our dispatch center handles everything. They handle
Terrific.
Okay.
police, fire,
Okay.
highway, water,
Right. Oh, okay.
light, after
Great.
hours, all those things.
Okay.
So, fire department is, we have 3 chiefs and 2 full-time firefighters. They don't do any dispatching.
Okay.
It is all done out of the police station, so that it's,
That's great.
Good.
that's particularly in these two departments, they work together. My other question related to that is the site itself. Keeping in mind that we have a police station, fire station. There's also, if you saw out back, those are 99% of our ball fields are out
Playing
back.
fields.
Parking
Right.
is a huge issue.
Sure.
Access to the ball fields is gonna be an issue versus police and fire, public access as well as private business access for the employees only type things. And then, in dealing with Corral, we looked at the property and it was all, you know, it's basically a flat space. It's an old
Yep.
gravel pit that they
I was
took a
gonna
lot of the
say,
gravel
it-
pit out.
it
There
looks
is some
like-
ledge in the back there, I don't know. We didn't run into any ledge building. I was on the building committee back when they did the original police station. And we didn't run into any ledge there. I don't know if there might be something going towards where the fire department might go. But if you looked at that at all, or we have any suggestions of what you think might be some issues?
Until we see how how it lays out on the civil plan. But we're doing a school now in Dedham where
We're probably gonna take out 900,000 of ledge.
Yeah.
So, I
big
mean,
lunch job.
you know, it depends on what you have to do. I mean, we did another job in Burlington where we had to take out just a little hub. So, I mean, you know, ledge doesn't scare me unless it's, you know, a big burden. You know what I'm saying?
I'm hopeful that it's minimal, but I mean,
Right.
I can't guarantee that.
Right.
I think the
We haven't
one,
done any studies to show what,
I was gonna say, the
where it
one
goes.
piece of advice I would say is that your borings and your geotechnical up front is money well spent. Whether you hire us or not, drill the bores, do the
Do enough of
borings,
them.
do enough of them, that you're completely satisfied with what you're gonna, you know, what you're gonna find. That's
are you
part
talking
of,
about doing them now?
Well, you
Or-
you
in
want
other
to do
words,
them during design. You know, right after you get the architect on board, that's what I do it. Once he knows kind of a general idea how he thinks the building may want to lay out, that's when I'd get the guy in and let him start doing borings. Because before you start putting a lot of, you know, pencil to the paper, if you have to juggle it, so you end up with a big knob over here, you may want to juggle the building a little bit to miss it. I mean, there's all kinds of things you can do.
right,
We're working on the Westport Police Station, and believe it or not, we ended up moving the building back from the first design company that did the study, and the reason being is because we found that there was much better place to put the septic system. He wanted us to rip up the driveway in the fire department, because they're gonna be next to each other, and put it in there. We said, why do that? I mean, let's go and see if we can put it in, and it turns out that it's much better. Instead of bringing in like 3 feet of fill, we're only bringing in about 2. So, I mean, there's a lot of advantage once you have the borings. And so that's why it's gotta be kind of well thought out. And so many architects says, oh, no, you only need 4 or 5. Look at, do 10. They're cheap versus a change order later on. You know, so, I mean, that's our opinion.
Yeah, okay. Debbie, then?
Yeah, how, just as a follow-up, how often do you find architects recommend maybe 4 to 5 borings?
Oh, well, and I want to be fair to them. I think what they're trying to do is always hold the budget. And so a lot of them, you know, are looking out for your interests. But here again, we're the guys in the field. And we find, and are dealing with the change orders later on, when they all of a sudden come up with, you know, 6 feet of silt material that now is going to be taken out. And so we'd rather spend that extra money up front. It's like buying an insurance policy. And it's a cheap way to do it. Can I say how often? I don't know. You know, we've worked, even some of the better ones have looked at the site and said, oh, we're okay here. We had one in Concord, it was all sand. They said, oh, this is great. What do we end up? We ended up hitting a big pit of ash. You know, they drilled all around it. You don't know. So it's just, you know, it's just the luck.
Yeah, and how it is.
Did it-
Basically, you're an OPM.
yes.
That's correct.
Okay.
And we also do our own estimating, just so you know. One of the reasons that we do our own estimating, you know, if you decide to do it a second estimated at the 75 to 90% drawings, is because it gives us an opportunity to say whether or not, one, to back up the price of the architects, and 2 is to make sure that we find that all the components are in there, that a guy that's now gonna bid it would then see stuff that's the same way we're doing it. You see what I'm saying? And so we find it to be an advantage. We decided years ago that we were just going to be an OPM company. We felt that if we were an architect, an engineer, or a contractor, there would at some point be a conflict of interest. The one thing that I'm running into now, since they changed the law, is all these architectural firms are started to open up OPM firms. And what's happening is, I can tell you a dozen jobs right now where an architect on this job is the OPM over here and vice versa. Well, if one of them screws up, who's the one that's gonna kind of bring it to the table here, you know what I'm saying? And it's a problem. I mean, I think you need, and the way the law reads, is an independent agent. And that's why we've kind of stuck to this situation.
In your opinion, do you think it's better for a city or town to go out to bid for the design work, or to use the same architect that did the feasibility study and schematic plans?
That's a tough question to ask right now, but I think that it's always good to go out, and we weren't part of the original, interview process for the study. And one is, we don't know what the contract or the RFP said, whether or not they could continue, so there may be a legal issue.
does say that.
Oh, it does. So, here again, if you're happy with the architect, I think you proceed. If you're not, I think if nothing else, it opens up for a new set of fresh eyes to look at the project and say, well, is there anything else they can do for you? I mean, now that you have a study done, I mean, one of the things, if you did put it out, we would say, okay, we just want to know what you can do for this town. We don't want to hear about your other projects, because if we're bringing you in for an interview, we've already looked at all your stuff. So don't show all your pictures from years ago. We want to know what you're going to do now. We work with Corral. I think they're a good firm. We have no issues with them. So it's not like we're saying we think you should pick somebody else. I just think that this is a big step. This is a small town. There's a lot of money. It depends on how comfortable you feel and whether or not you just want to take another look at it. No matter what,
Let me ask you, how many projects have you worked with Corral?
just the one.
Just
I
the
think.
one.
Yeah.
Sudbury?
Yes.
Yeah.
Sudbury PD.
Okay.
Yeah.
And everything went well?
Well, no, I wouldn't say that. There was a bunch of issues, but what I will tell you up front is that the chairman of that committee was probably one of the most difficult gentlemen I've ever known, and I've known him for 15 years. Okay.
Sorry, the building committee?
Well, the chairman, because he was in the OPM business,
Okay.
and Greg gave him an estimate. It had to be like 2 or 3 years old, right, or more.
The job had a very prolonged lifespan. They started the design work originally, I think, in 2008, and they didn't build it until 2014, 2015.
Oh, wow.
So there was a long span of time, and there was a real need from the building chair's perspective to stick to the original budget. And I think I think that was a lot of the friction,
I can imagine.
that existed.
I mean, we're looking at projects, and we were told that the prices go up 4-5% a year construction.
Right,
prices.
at least.
Right now, I mean,
Right.
I don't know what it's been.
It slowed down just a little bit recently, but there was a slight period where they were up to 7.
That's why we're fortunate that,
Yeah.
we got he did the study last year, we got
Right.
the Springtown meeting, we got the money, and now we're moving forward. I mean,
Right.
time is money, there's no ifs, ands, or
Right.
buts about that.
Just to give you a little more history on that, and the chairman and the board used to fight, almost fist fight between themselves, just to give you an idea. So it was a very difficult job for us. We were trying to keep all the parties happy. And luckily, we had a very good contractor that was willing to work with us, and we got lucky because he's doing Hudson now. So there's a multiple things. So would I, at this point, throw Greg under the bus? No. I think there was just too many things.
Oh, we work well with them.
Yeah, by the way, we came in late
Right.
on the project because the chairman thought that he could do it himself for a while, and then he said, okay, let's go out. Well, we're coming in, and all these floor plans are kind of done, and then, and the committee was making more of the decisions than the police chief. We said, whoa, this is incredible, how can this happen? So,
Well, what I didn't mention, neglected to mention before, was the actual building committee. We're trying to keep it small. Probably going to be, the Board of Selectmen actually makes that decision, but we'll probably have the 2 selectmen, maybe Joe and myself, I'm not sure if it might be 2 different selectmen, but town administrator and then the police and fire chiefs. At this stage of the game, we're not looking for citizens to tell us that they'd like to have
no, I
such and such for the fire department. I mean,
Right.
we're to the point where we know what we need, we know what we want, and we want the process, and obviously the 2 chiefs are essential to
Yep.
a smooth process, so
Right.
that,
No, that helps. As long as you know what you want, it's easy to do. That's where we ran into the problem.
Let me ask another one. Please share some examples of where you've intervened during a project when you discovered problems involving expenditures, design flaws, delays, problems with subcontractors. I guess you did cover some of that. But
Yeah, do you have any you want to bring up? Otherwise, I'll take a shot at it.
I can, The projects we've had recently have all been relatively smooth. You know, we've had a couple, I said, as Paul said, the project in Stowe was particularly challenging. We had 4 major subcontractors and then the general go under throughout the life of that project. That was very challenging, but like Paul said, we were able to work with the surety company who was ultimately brought in at the end of the job. We turned over almost $4 million in work in the last 90 days and opened the building on time. You know, then we worked off-shift work and weekends throughout the upcoming fall to address any outstanding items or punch list items, and really worked seamlessly with the building department in that school to keep everything together and to push everything through. And ultimately, we finished the job on time. We returned almost $1 million to the community
From the
of
contingency.
unspent
From the
contingency.
contingency.
Not the savings between the bid and the budget. We're talking about after we set the budget, after we got the bids, we saved $1 million in contingency, which is, and I mean, it was way under 2% in change orders.
Prior to my involvement, I know Paul's had some interesting experiences.
The best one we had, I have to say, was, well, I have 2 very similar ones where we started excavating in particular areas and hit oil. In Whitman, they told us that they had changed the tank 5 years earlier. They told us they made a total cleanup, which was not true. I asked the architect if he checked with the civil guy and we're okay here. He said, yep. Well, there was a use and limitations on the site, no building or excavation of the soil at all. So we were doing 3 schools at the same time. We immediately had to shut down that one. We immediately mobilized everybody to start on the other school. And we got over there and we kept the project going, so we finished, just squeaked in just on time. The other one was out of Danvers Middle School. We were taking the last scoop. We had to be down, at least 25 feet. Taking the last scoop for the elevator pit, and we come up with black oil. They estimated the oil was probably in that ground over 150 years, because there used to be a brick factory there. So, and what we had done is we had taken the 2 buildings that were there, we actually just cut them in half. Historical said we had to save the fronts. And we were building a big addition off the back, almost like an angle. And so what we did is we said, okay, we mobilized with the general contractor to determine what we had to do. And so what we ended up doing is over here was going to be another whole wing that was going to come out this way. We immediately met with all the subs, everything else, is what's going to take to remobilize over here, as well as start to do some of the renovation, which was not going to happen until the second half. And so we, here again, didn't miss a beat, opened school on time, and still we had a $580,000 cost of that cleanup, with the DEP. And we still turned over a large sum of money back to the town. I mean, the town manager was thrilled. They were so thrilled we ended up getting high school, which was an $83 million job 5 years later. So, I mean, I think that we're the type that's going to react. We're not going to sit back. We're going to take the lead and make sure that stuff happens. We're just not going to sit back and wait.
And who actually would be the project manager?
Well,
Dale would probably be the day-to-day guy, but here again, just like on every project, we're both involved in every project. It's just that if you were to call, you would probably say to call Neil just so we don't try to drop the ball. You know what I'm saying? But in any given day, you're going to see me here as well. I mean, same thing down at Westport. Most of the times they will call Neil, but I attend almost every meeting down there. And Neil hasn't gone down to Hyannis as much because it's just a little extra haul, and we're luckily we're just starting to get the drawing. It's took us 3 years to get it approved. Oh, it was difficult.
I spoke to the chief.
Oh, you did? Yeah.
He told me.
Yeah. Oh,
Long
my God.
road.
Let me tell you, I had hair back then.
One of my strong concerns is issues with clerks of the works.
Yeah.
One of your duties would be,
Yeah.
can you give us a little, and I preface this by saying that, I don't know if you're familiar with it, Salisbury, and I'm only getting this from newspaper reports. they're currently almost ready to open up their new $12 million police station.
Mm-hmm.
And in the middle of the project, they had issues between the contractor and the clerk of the works. I guess they replaced the clerk of the works. They had a similar problem with their library a couple of years back. And we've had some issues with the clerk of the works here on another project that was done for the water department. So very concerned about, can you give us a little explanation of the clerk of the works and what
Well,
you
we,
see
you
the
know,
job
it's so
is and-
far out, we don't know exactly what date to say who would be here, or whether
Right.
we'd have to go hire somebody, or whatever. But I can assure you that we will, that any clerk of the works we put here, you can imagine 50 projects, we've never had a problem. If I thought there was any kind of problem, I'd park myself right up here. You know, and do something. I tell you, we had a little bit of a burp with the clerk of the works over in Danvers, because unfortunately he did the town hall and he acted as the project manager slash OPM. So that's as they said. We hired him. The town asked us if we would kindly keep him on, so we did. He was resentful that he wasn't the OPM, and so there was a lot of problems, to the point where I then ultimately took one of my boys, who is also one of our assistant PMs that works for us, and I parked him up there full-time to make sure that job got finished correctly. You know, it's expensive for me, but on the other hand, you know, I was a big boy. I accepted their recommendation and had to live with it. So I can guarantee you there won't be that problem, and you won't get headlines.
Now, in terms of getting back to us with information, for instance, we did a project, one flooding project back May of, was it '06? We had all the, we had the, with FEMA and MEMA, we had replaced 3 bridges.
Mhm.
We had a great clerk of the works, great relationship. I was on the board at that time, and Debbie was here, and this person worked between the project manager and the clerk of the works. I went out to the site almost every single day, and I consulted with both. If the clerk of the works wasn't there, I knew the super on the project first name basis, and it really worked great. And the bridges are as good today as they were back then. Nothing that I did, but it's just that we saw what a working relationship can do versus other projects we've seen where it isn't so good. So I mean, we are concerned that whoever the clerk of the work is, that they communicate with Debbie, who really is here she's the full-time.
Yep.
The full-time town administrator that's here. If there's problems, I mean, I'm sure myself or Joe or whatever, we're gonna be looking at this project. I go by there every single day. I live in the neighborhood up there, so.
Sure.
But I can
We're
guarantee
just
you.
assured that, I mean, to me, if we don't get a good clerk of the works, it's really, everything else kind of falls apart if that
Absolutely.
that part of it doesn't work, so.
There's no doubt about it.
We've actually found, I can speak to at least the last 8-9 years anyway, we found that if we actually overqualify the clerks and we look for somebody with a project management background who may not yet be ready to take that full step, but has a good wealth of field experience, we try to look for somebody whose skill set will match the type of construction that we have planned for this facility. And we found that it really works well in our favor. It's less headaches on our side because we hire a highly qualified individual to man each site. Sometimes it doesn't always work out on the bottom line of the project, but ultimately what's important is that you guys, like I said before, get the building that you deserve and that the quality is at a very high level. And that's what we strive for. And if that means we shell out a few more bucks, then that's the way it is.
I noticed on your project list, you've got quite a few public safety
We do.
projects as well as schools and some other things.
Yep.
Is there any problems that you can see with like doing the similar projects or renovation / new construction at the same time? Is there police and fire? Is it any kind of difficulty that you might run into there versus something that you see in a school project? Or
No, I think the key with any renovation is to do it as quietly and as seamlessly as you can with the existing operation. When you're doing it in a life safety facility, it just ratchets that up that much further. So you got to make sure you keep them operating 24/7, no interruptions in service, and then you try to be as quiet and as unobtrusive as you can possibly be in the background. And we've done many renovations of occupied schools, both during academic years and summers. One of our recent successes was a middle school in Burlington, Mass. We did a renovation there. It was 2.5 years long. We finished it 6 months early. It was about 30 phases, 25 phases of sort of 4 classrooms at a time with temporary space, and we moved everybody out and in on weekends and seamlessly worked our way through the school and hit it hard during the summers and put a 30,000 square foot renovation in the front of the school, sort of on an ongoing basis throughout the whole project. And it was a very successful job. There were no issues with safety. Obviously, in that situation, there were children involved, so it was complete separation of workmen and children, and there were no issues. So,
Couple of things that, you know, when you bring up a school project, and one of the things we become very attentive to is the venting of the employees. I mean, you know, we need to do a query on them. We need to check them out. We make sure that they understand. We give them rules and regulations of working on this site, such as no smoking, no foul language. We actually have signs printed up that the headline is "Think Like a Parent," and it goes on and goes down all these things. And we do, whether it's Neil or myself that's out there or our clerk, make sure if we hear guys talking in a language that they shouldn't, we go up and kindly ask them to say, remember, we have students in this near vicinity. And so I think it makes a big difference when the town sees a better class of people working, that the parents come there, they don't feel as nervous as they normally would. So that's one of the things we try to, you know, add.
We've got 11.5, give or take, I forget the exact figure, 11.7. I mean, the Corral Group obviously
that's the number.
gave us a schematic and gave us a price of 11.7, and we went to town meeting with that.
They give it a little bit lower. We
Yeah,
added that on.
his was actually, I think, around 11.2. We
11.2.
added
Yeah, that's
5
what I
to it,
thought.
Yep.
figuring that,
Yep.
just to cover ourselves.
Yep.
There's no way we're going back to town
Nope.
meeting for any more money. And in previous projects we've done, even the original police station that's there, we ended up having to go back to town meeting and get more money. And that thing ultimately cost us $750,000 at the time. So, I mean, it was cheap money at those days, but.
Sure.
So this is this money, we have what we have to make it do what we want it to do.
Absolutely.
And looking at, your cursory looking at it, does it look like it's doable? And I understand that, you know, obviously it's a cursory look, but.
Yeah, we always like to see a little more contingency on renovation projects than 5%, honestly. But I think all in all, we can make something
It's
work
doable.
with what we have.
I mean, here again, you know, we bring up the Sudbury thing again, and even though we went back to him, the board, and we told him what they need, the chairman was held fast. He said, no, I'm going back for half of it. And we said, okay, so whatever you get, we'll make it work, and that's what we did. You know, I mean, the chief didn't get everything he wanted, he understood that, and I mean, he's very happy with us. I can't say that he's very happy with his board, but that's all we care about,
Yeah,
you
right.
know?
Yep.
So, no, as I said, as I started out, we take these jobs very, very personal. I mean, we're not just coming here just for a profit and loss. We want to do a good job. And we're going to give you all of our numbers, my phone, my home phone, my cell. I pick up 24 hours a day, same thing with Neil. And whether it's now or in the future, you have a problem, we want you to call us. Give you an idea, I got a call a few weeks ago again, several times from the senior center in Northborough. She's fighting with the town manager all the time and about trying to get money to fix things. And so she'll call me up and ask me if I says, no problem, Kelly, I'm going to be going by there, I'll stop by there, and let me see what I can do for you. You know, and that's how we want to do business with people, you know, I mean. Maybe another idea, Turner's Falls we did now, it's quite a while ago, but there were 8 or 9 years into, since we finished. 3 maintenance guys later, this guy calls me, he says, hey, he says, somebody had told me to call you, the project manager. He says, where can we get replacement doors? He's 40. He says, oh, we're gonna have to replace all the classrooms, they're delaminating. I said, oh, hold on, let me get on the archives. I get on the archives. I thought that was the case. We asked for a 10-year warranty. The manufacturer to come and replace all the doors, it was like 350 doors.
Oh,
Yeah.
you have the archive, yep.
You know what I'm saying? So
Yeah.
we keep telling people, call us. We can't always say we're gonna be the miracle worker, but, you know, if you don't take a shot and call us.
Right.
You know,
If
anything
we
can
let
do.
you know,
Yeah.
then maybe there is something you can, or
Yeah,
Right.
right.
who knows?
You know, so, I mean, that's the type of firm we're in. It's not just, okay, here's, we made enough money, you know, that's it, we're done. It's not gonna happen that way.
Debbie, you usually ask about closeouts too.
Yeah,
right?
it just as a follow-up, he's speaking about Turner Falls. So describe what kind of services your firm provides for closeout.
Well, we'll stay here until the last bill's paid, and we'll make sure that, you know, you have all your warranties, your as-built drawings. Any warranties during that period, you have a problem, you tell us to call you, call us, and we'll follow up. But as I said, to us, in theory, a job never closes. We kind of say, okay, if you have a problem, call us, because we're probably going to be a lot better on giving you direction and where you can do things. Yeah, they may be out of warranty, but we can say, wait a minute, we think you should do this because we think you can save money. So, but yeah, you will see us until the day that you say, okay, everybody's paid, all the warranties are done. One of the things we will do is 10 months after the substantial completion, we will ask the architect, project manager, and whoever from the town to do a walkthrough, because we're coming up to a 10-month warranty, and we'd like to make sure that we walk through to see if there's anything that looks like it may be a problem or a potential problem. We want to go on record, because if we go on record and then 13, 14 months later we find this problem develops, we're on record, you know, so that's what we try to do.
We actually just did that project, just facilitated that process in Sudbury. They're now 11 months. It was the end of this month, last year, that they took occupancy. So we went through, fortunately. There were no real significant issues, couple loose ends, and we're in the process of buttoning those up with the contractor. So we maintain a very open and ongoing relationship with the chiefs. They're the points of contact, so we will call them frequently during the first year. We know problems come up when people are learning how to run a new building efficiently. It's part of the natural process of every project. We'll work very hard to make sure this one doesn't have any issues, but if in the case that they do, pick up the phone and call us, and we mobilize the troops and get everybody out there to address whatever issues that you have.
Yeah, there's always break-in hiccups, especially with mechanical systems. You know, the system for some reason is overheating here and too cold here, and we have to get the guys in and kind of tweak it and make sure the temperature control system is working correctly. But I mean, those are the everyday thing. That's what we do.
Right.
I mean, and one of the things we'll do is give you reports every month of where we are financially, cash flow wise, and everything. What we did is, this is not to say that everything here will be used for your project, but it gives you a general idea of what we've arrived for clients, so that they can, you know, see the different things we're going to provide. You know, kind of a monthly report of its, I guess you put scope of service in first. We do the estimated, the advantage of it, and we have the sample reports that will come out every month, and in that will be all different kinds of things. The one thing we definitely do for your behalf is what's in here? A change order log. Oops, passed today. Okay. So,
After the budget sheet.
right there. So, one of the things we do, and she kind of didn't do this exactly the way I wanted to, or use the right form. We list out every one of the change orders and the detail that's in the change order. And what we do is we provide several columns here. One will say owner requested items, errors, omissions, or errors and omission maybe together, and then unknown conditions. And the reason I say this is because at the end of the project, let's just say the architect dropped the ball.
we want to have some proof that can go back to do a claim against his errors of emission insurance. Luckily, I only had that once, which was back in the Whitman days, when we had to go back to the architect because we spent so much money, you know, cleaning up that oil, that if he had known, it wasn't just cleaning up the oil, it was making the DEP happy, because we had
Yeah.
half of a building up.
Oh, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, he had some penalty there. But, I mean, we go into this, and not in a bad way, is that this project is gonna go to litigation. And, the reason being is that we take that approach and mindset from the beginning. We have all the documents we need to support you. And this goes back to the Mashpee days when the selectmen voted to give me full authority to settle all the claims with the contractor. And I had the final decision. Well, I stuck hard with the contractor and the bonding company and everything else, great attorney, and we ultimately got $1 million return from them, discount. $1 million. I mean, it was unheard of. And they assigned 5 contractors, we got the job finished. That primed the pump to let us go out and do bids on some of the fields that we couldn't afford. So, I mean, let me tell you, they were thrilled. I mean, you know, well, just to tell you, it just shows you how much trust the Board of Selectmen had in me to give me carte blanche to settle this thing, you know? And it's so funny, but the bonding company and the attorney didn't want to meet unless they had somebody who's going to make a decision. Attorney says, here he is. If you make them happy, they'll be happy. So, I mean, you know, it worked out very well.
Very, very important.
Yeah, so I don't want to say that we come on hostile, it's just we do this in the background, just to make sure everything's going to be okay. I'll give you an idea. The contractor walked in with about this much stuff, and we walked in with 2 4-wheel dollies of boxes of documents. You know, I mean, we had them dead to right. And I think what happened is they were a subdivision, a sub-corporation of another company that was much bigger. I don't want to throw anybody under the bus here, but the master company had their lawyer sitting in the background. I think he went back and said, settle this thing, because this could be a real problem.
Yep.
So,
If you were to get to be appointed as ROPM for the project, what would your first steps be?
first steps would be to resolve the issue with the architect, is to find out what the opinion is of the board, whether or not you want to come to an agreement with Corel, or do you want to open it up? And if you want to open it up, we'd immediately get the RFQ ready to get it out on the street. We'd put the, write it up, we'd give it to you, you can proof it, and if everybody's okay, we'll put the ads all in and get it done so that we can get it going ASAP. Because time is money.
It is. Yep.
Right? So, people don't believe me when I tell them, if you take this project, say at $10 million, and times it by 5%, then you divide that by 52 weeks, you're gonna see you're talking about serious money every week you fool around and delay. People don't have any idea. And that's what I kept on telling the people down here. They thought I was just joking with them that it was $20,000 a week. Until all of a sudden, they went out and said, oh no, we want you to get another estimate, and then they want us to cut the bill. We cut 5,000 out, cut 5,000 out. And we said, we're still at 18 million. They said, that can't be the case. I said, yeah, I showed them. And then all of a sudden they said, whoa, we better approve this thing because pretty soon you can't cut any more out.
Yeah.
The first time Sudbury went in for approval, they had a schematic design based on, I think, an 18,000 square foot building, and it was an $8 million estimate. And by the time they were done studying it, going back and forth, appeasing the community, appeasing the boards, they got a 15,000 square foot building for $8 million. And it took them 4.5 years or so to get there. So it's real, it happens in multiple communities. And it's a shame, but it's also the reality. Time is not
Yeah.
on your side.
No,
For sure,
no.
Yeah.
for sure.
So that's what we do.
Concern.
We'd hit the ground, and then once we get them on board, the first thing would be to do is to try to make sure that everybody's in agreement with the layout and whether it should be 2 buildings or 1 building. I mean, we'd like to get those decisions up then so we can have them start to do kind of a positioning on the site.
Right.
And then once we do that, we can get the borings, and then we're off and running.
Okay, Hey, Joe, anything else?
I'm all set.
Debbie?
Just in terms of any energy efficiency components in the construction, the selectmen we're not a green community in terms of construction requirements, but if there were some energy efficient measures that can be taken in the design, I know you have experience because of Hudson.
Yep.
And I spoke to Tom, he used to be a selectman here in Rowley.
Oh, I didn't know that, okay.
Worked with him, he'll have a lot of respect for him, but I know he has a gold certified
Yep.
lead project.
Right.
Right.
But, you know, things that can be common sense, energy efficient, construction, obviously you have experience from
Oh,
some of
yeah.
your other jobs.
One of the things we'll always
But
do
something that makes sense, that's not too expensive.
is we'll do a cost-benefit relationship between all of the items that we can look at, and we'll try to vet those out with the architect during design. One of the things we always look at in New England with ice dams and whatever else, we always try, if the budget will allow, to do a spray foam insulation and complete
Okay.
and keep the attic warm, and that way we don't have to worry about ice dams. It's more energy efficient than fiberglass and bats. You get an incredibly tight envelope. You know, but lighting controls, expensive lighting control system probably won't make sense
Okay.
for the job. Might save you a few pennies on your electric bill, but with the LED light fixtures and whatnot, an expensive lighting control for 3 full-time employees probably won't make sense. So we'll look at all of those,
Okay.
kind of weigh them out as we go through the design process. We'll look at the budget, if you can afford it. It's a great feature, and it'll keep your operating costs down. That would be something we'd look to incorporate into the project.
Just so
If
you
the
know, with the
payback
new
is-
stretch code, the energy stretch code, it's becoming a lot harder to get to that next step where you say, oh, if I spent this money, this is what I get. You can do a little bit of that because you don't have your own utilities out here, do you?
We do have our own light department.
Okay,
Right.
so you won't get any of those credits,
Yeah.
but you will get some gas credits. And what we'll do is look to those to see if we can up the efficiency of the boiler that can help offset that cost, because, ultimately, you're gonna get it back long term.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
Well, that's good. I think that the board agrees if there are things that we can do to
Yeah.
defray operating costs that aren't gonna, put too much of an outlay on the construction burden.
Right.
We wanna do what's practical, that's all.
Yep.
Right, I think the insulation, like Neil mentioned, is probably the one pet peeve we really go for. And then, the other thing is, we wanna keep this building simple. What we don't wanna do is have you start having an operating cost, not so much the operating, but the guys coming in to get the stuff, to tell them how to fix it or change the temperature. You just don't want it to be so crazy, you can't stand it,
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
that's what you don't wanna do.
Simple. Simple goes a long way.
Right.
Yes, we agree.
Good. All right, anything else, anybody?
Oh, do you have any questions?
I don't think so, you laid out
I was
everything,
going
yeah.
to say, you laid out the decision time frame, which is usually our last question of the day, so.
Okay.
Yep.
No, thank you very much for
Thank
coming
you.
in.
I don't know if you need any more books, I'll gladly.
Oh, well,
We're certainly
thank
excited
you.
about the project.
Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank
very
you.
much. Nice to meet
Nice to
Nice to
meet
meet
you.
you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Nice to
Thank
meet
you.
you.
Thank you, nice to
Thank you
meet
very
you.
much, it's very
Nice
pleasant.
to meet
Yeah,
you.
thank
very
you.
much.
All right,
Good
good
safe
luck.
drive back. Where you gonna go? Where you heading?
We go everywhere.
Where you
Today,
guys, where you
today,
from?
let's see, I gotta go to Natick, and then I gotta go to Marlboro, so today's not a bad day.
Oh, okay.
Thursday, I'm down to Foxborough and then Hyannis.
Oh, good to you.
Yeah, so.
On the road.
We were doing it, we just finished a big job up in, 64 million, up in Greenfield.
Oh, really?
And before that, I did the Turners Falls, I was up there 5 years, every
Oh,
week.
wow.
Wow.
Yeah, yeah.
So you've seen the Commonwealth and beyond, right?
Slowly, you know?
Yep, yep, good. All right,
All
well,
right.
thank you very much.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Nice to
Yep,
meet you.
thank you. Well,
We have to move to adjourn.
Well, we have at the agenda a continued discussion.
Yeah, we're gonna
on,
discuss and rate the interviews and rank the three
if the
finalists
board
if
so
we can.
wishes, if, still like to do that.
Yeah, I think, if we want to be ready for next week's selectmen's meeting, unless we want to have another meeting later in the week. funny, in listening to all three interviews, I've gone back and forth on my feelings and
Yes.
what's best and what's not best, and of course,
Yeah.
it's tough to make decisions, so. Debbie, you've been taking notes copiously. Thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, well, it's good
And,
to relive that when I type
Right.
these up to focus on some of the details and the comments that were said. I think they're three very good firms, and kind of now I think we know that they are highly qualified, which is the best match in the direction that the selectmen kind of want to go with this project.
Yeah, after talking and listening to all three firms, very pleased with the three firms that we selected as the finalists. That I think we made a very good choice on that. But I think your comment that we were thinking about certain issues and trying to get a flavor for where to go. And I've made some changes in my thinking that, maybe when you're talking about an OPM, do you want a company that focuses in on the job as an OPM rather than an OPM that is also has architectural, I was going one way and have made some changes in my
Yeah, I
thinking
think you
on
and I
that.
probably both kind of gone along in the same way in that. No, they were very, very instructional in terms of what we're looking for, and like I say, I'm completely new to this. Joe, you've dealt with looking at this from the school issue. Debbie, you've done a lot of projects for us, and I'm sure in your career, so I'm probably the greenest. I don't mean green in the sense of energy efficient. The newest person to deal with this type of thing, and it was really an eye-opener in terms of our project and things we want to do. So what did you think, Debbie?
Like I said, I think they all can easily do the job. I think probably the best strategy would be to look at our rubric and kind of look at, in terms of the interview and the background of the firm, which is going to provide what the board wants. I know the selectmen in this town have a reputation of being very practical and how things need to be constructed and done and presented. It needs to function well. It needs to not involve a lot of increases in operating costs to run buildings. And I think that the plan, and Dave, you worked on that for the schematic, is what the chiefs wanted. The construction of a fire station next to a police station. If we look at that as a given, then we take what these three firms can offer and going forward with that plan. And I think the best thing would be to maybe rate the interview and then look at possibly eliminating one and then look at the final two and just really think about that in terms of which one is the highest ranked that we would refer to the selectmen.
Yeah, I like all three firms have the monthly reports. They answered your questions about clerk of the works too, and which is a major concern, and the staying on budget, which is a very major concern for us.
Well, I think we're fortunate in the effect that we've got them going in. We've got this amount of money.
Yes.
So that we're not looking to go back to town meeting now and say, well, they're going to take another year, and a couple of the projects they talked about today, when, time literally is money.
Yep.
And one of the things, and as the pamphlet, information they pass out today, you look back under just as a quickie when you talk about us being frugal. I know Bob Snow always talks about we run a frugal, kind of a cheap operation here. It's under just before sample reports. It's the page before the sample reports.
Oh, yeah.
And it talks about these are all completed school projects, but every one of them comes in under the estimated costs. So that it appears to me that this company in particular is very good at what they do.
Right.
And that's rather impressive. Out of 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 school projects, every one of them come in under the final price was under what they estimated the cost to be.
Yep.
And, so that I mean, I think it shows a lot of diligence to what they do and how they do it. And they're real interesting.
And, yes, and that's consistent with, I know we discussed at our November 7th meeting, and Joe, I know you weren't here at that meeting, but you did see my reference notes, and I spoke to Hyannis, I spoke to Sudbury, I spoke to Westport and Hudson, and all these projects were solely OPM, though they do schools and other municipal buildings. Everybody was pleased with CMS. Some of the comments included that they were very good. They just focus on public projects. They were good handling situations where there was a switch in architects, and that Neil Joyce, the gentleman who was here that would be the project manager, was outstanding in his performance, and that it's a small firm. So, even though it was a small firm, that seemed to somehow work well with these towns.
Yeah, and where they had one project where they had 4 companies went out of business.
Yeah.
While they were on the project, so that they had to go into the bonding company to come up.
Well,
finish it.
it sounds like too that because of some of the problems they've had with the construction companies and dealing with that they're very, very much aware of the quality of the construction company. And I think we often see in school projects and a lot of these projects that if the OPM does not keep on top of, or the clerk of the works does not keep on top of the construction company, that's where these problems really develop.
Right.
And, one of the things like with Triton we were fortunate with was that the building committee at that time, and I don't know whether they had OPMs, I don't know what they did at the time, but they really kept tabs on a regular basis with the architects and the contractors, and I mean, it was not a hands-off, it was definitely a hands-on of making these people toe the line. And I think it's important that, in this case, the OPM, and with projects we've had with our experience with projects in the past, I think it's, I kind of like the idea that, and I wasn't feeling this way in the beginning, but I've kind of come to the conclusion that I think we need to have an OPM that's strictly an OPM. I think that pays off for us.
I think it does.
Yeah, I really do. And I didn't feel that way partway through some of these interviews.
Right.
I was thinking the other way, and but this is a project that we want to move on it. We know exactly what the budget's going to be. I liked CMS when he talked about, and the last 2 architects in particular, or the last 2 OPM discussions we had, both really brought into play whether we might not be better off looking at one building instead of 2.
Exactly.
In other words, we kind of went with that premise with the original estimate with Corral Group based on, keeping that temporary building in place. And, but maybe in looking at the last 2 that we talked to, really kind of opened my eyes anyway to the fact that, all right, yeah, maybe it's going to cost a few dollars to move the buildings or do some other things, but maybe in the long run, that's much more cost effective, and in particular, if we can combine services, some joint.
And we already have the combined dispatch, so
We
that,
are combined,
yeah.
in one training room and things like that, one boiler system, one generator. There's a lot of things that it's kind of opened up the door, at least to give us a kind of an alternative look at. And I think that's something we need to look at. Obviously, whoever we hire will be one of the first things we need to decide. But they seem to work. They work with the Corral Group. Was it difficult in a public meeting with any criticisms they might have? Any of these companies, they're not going to sit there and criticize openly. But I mean, I think the other decision it'll be for us to make whether the OPM we hire is, do we stay with the Corral Group or do we take the time and effort to, is it worthwhile to go and look
Right.
at a new architect, go out to bid, which is a time, and, it's a tough decision to make. The one
Yeah.
thing I like about CMS is they work with the Corral Group, which for us might be a benefit in terms of what their recommendations are gonna be.
Right. That could save us 6 weeks,
That could save 6
time-wise.
weeks and a lot of money, probably.
Yeah, so Vertex is too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think they've got
they
two
work
jobs.
They work with,
Sudbury gave CMS on a score of 0 to 10, with 10 being the highest, an 11 plus
yeah.
on the OPM
Yeah.
work. Due to, obviously, there were some number of issues that were happening at that,
Yep.
on that project.
Right.
So, and that shows me that if there are a lot of other intervening factors and you're just trying to build the project on course, to be able to handle that kind of turmoil during the project and still come out and get it done the way the town wanted it to, I think that's pretty,
Yeah, to listen to the Sudbury project,
Pretty
which
important.
had a tough committee to deal with and a lot of, sounds like some hard heads to deal with. I think we start off with a very committed, small committee that really, we know where we want to go and we know what we have to deal with. And so that the emphasis on hopefully on the OPM's part can be to move forward
Yep.
without any initial problems anyway. I mean,
Right.
You're always gonna run into a roadblock or a stumble here and there, but it sounds like, I mean, both these, Vertex and this one, have dealt with a lot of, problems, contracts with issues
Yep.
that they were able to deal with, and,
When they made the point too about, they very carefully vetted the construction people, because, you can have problems, and we're gonna be a design bid build, then you don't wanna just take the lowest bidder.
Right.
You wanna get good people in to do the best job we can for the dollars that we have.
so, yeah, so.
well, if we could just rate for the
Yep,
sake of the
yep.
last criteria on our RFQ, in terms of the interviews, we could start maybe, I guess we'll start with CMS and go backwards. Highly advantageous on our scoring rubric, proposer clearly reviewed the process as it would unfold, described the work that would be delivered, and was convincing of the depths of expertise. Staff would be involved in the contract, were present at the interview. Each team member was able to complete dialogue with the design and selection committee.
I would find CMS highly advantageous.
Yeah, I would too.
All right, so I would, we'll give that, we agree that's highly advantageous. How about Vertex?
Yeah, I think all three firms
They scored highly advantageous.
would score
In the
highly.
first-
I mean,
in
I
that
was
first-
impressed, there was none of them that had any deficiency.
In terms of the interview.
But
Right.
in terms of the interview, they were highly advantageous.
Yep.
Okay, yeah, I agree. I think everybody did a great job. They were well prepared. They outlined what they would do for us. Okay, so we all agree on that. In terms of the scope of services, looking at what the contract will consist of, pre-construction phase work, which will be assisting if the selectmen so choose to go out to bid for the architect, any other design work, site work, things like that. Then going into the construction phase, that's the whole corporate works piece, and then the closeout, and then ongoing services. Those four services will be what their contract's for. Knowing that all things being equal now with the three firms.
Well, I was impressed with CMS when he mentioned the fact that, did you say, 17 years later? They got a call from someone and they, it sounds like it's something that if down the road a piece, we run into a problem, they may not be able to solve it for us, but we can call them.
Right.
And
They
they
might
will
have,
they will do whatever they can
know
to
who you can get in touch with.
make
Or where
recommendations
to, or may be able to help you.
I mean, to me, that's real follow-through. That's
Right.
something I mean, how often you get a project and, few years later, something's gone wrong, and the project itself was done fine, it's just something wears out, or you need parts now, and that's a common problem, is, you put in a system, and then it's good for 5 years. We ran into that with the fire alarm system at the annex, they couldn't get parts anymore. So.
Yeah, yeah.
But I mean, when you're using when you're doing these mechanical systems and stuff, I was just impressed with their follow through on, that they're basically available, and they've run all over the place. I mean, they've gone statewide and get nothing but good recommendations, no matter where and when.
I'd give them a highly advantageous.
Yeah, I would too.
And the other two, I'd only give advantageous to.
Well, in terms
Personally.
of the interview, that was just on the rubric for the interview.
Yeah.
Do we agree then, am I hearing you right, that it's all highly advantageous or advantageous for all three? On just the interview piece?
On just
That
that
was just
first
the
one.
interview. Now that, yeah,
Right.
I did record highly advantageous for all three
All
firms
three.
on the interview, and now we
Right.
just need to make that ranking for the
Right, now
top.
when we're talking about the second section here on,
Yeah, this is all, we're done with the ranking, and I think now that you've got the three firms, just where do we go from here in terms of which firm will, rises to the top? I mean, the interview was an effort to kind of flesh out anything that maybe.
oh, I see what you're, okay.
So now we need to make that referral to the Board of Selectmen. All the references have been done, and they're all very well. It's really a question of, are we looking for maybe a smaller firm or a larger firm? The other two firms were larger. Do you think it's a benefit to draw from a larger firm, or is there something more personal about having a small firm that we're dealing with, two individuals? Is there a concern that in the case of CMS, are they maybe too small, or are they just what we're looking for? The architect we have that did the schematic is from a very small firm,
Right,
and there was a comfort level with the board on that versus the two other firms that competed for that contract. They were very large firms.
I think for me, CMS had, on a scale, if you were to put the three of them, I think I would give the plus to CMS. That I like the way they attacked the project, the way they went after people, the way they just understood what it was necessary, and they were willing to hold the people's feet to the fire when it was necessary.
And the other thing that I've talked about consistently from the beginning is the clerk of the works, and the other two firms basically are going to use internal people for clerks of the works, and I was kind of leaning in that direction, but after listening to CMS, they're going to go out and find, based on projects they've done, and for the numbers of projects they've done in which they've hired the clerk of the works, they've obviously hired good people because of the way the projects have come in completed and under budget and so on and so forth. And the other thing is I'm looking at is if you have a clerk of the works from within the firm, he's one of the guys, or if it's a woman, and he's one of the people
Right.
that they would deal with day in and day out, that they can overlook or accept, kind of like take for granted certain things to get done. Whereas if CMS is talking about coming in with a clerk of the works from the outside, they're going to have no fear to say, wait a minute, you're really not doing the job either. You got to do it or you're out. You know what I mean? It's a situation that, and once again, because of the process we've gone through, I've kind of changed my opinion as to what I think is important. And to me, like I say, clerk of the work has been essential, and I'm really leaning now towards the fact that they will hire a separate clerk of the works, and that person will be accountable to them. And I got a very strong feeling for both of these gentlemen that whoever they hire is going to be well supervised and under
Get
the
a
gun.
strong feeling on that, yes.
Yeah, but to produce what needs to be done, because even though it's independent clerk, it reflects on the company and the job. That really put me to the top of the three firms on that.
Yep, I would agree.
And I would agree, if the board does continue with using the architect that did the schematics, probably having a smaller firm to be part of that team rather than a really large firm coming in. Sometimes people can work better. Sometimes with a smaller firm, it might be a better match than having a lot of different people to contact for different issues. and I think that based on all the references that I heard from Hyannis, Westport, Sudbury, and of course Hudson, I think that CMS is probably the best match for the town.
Well, the other thing I have to admit, and we've all, Debbie, you run into it more all the time now, and I've seen it happen in other areas, is when you go out and ask for recommendations. It's very suspect on what you get back for comments, or, you know, people are very reluctant to say bad things about experiences or things
Yeah.
they've had. And with Hudson, knowing that the town manager out there is that what Tom's position as town manager?
Yep.
That I feel strongly that with his relationship to Rowley in the past, he's gonna give us a straight scoop. And if he's given, if Hudson's given this firm an 11 on a scale of 1 to 10.
That was Sudbury. He gave a 10, and
Yeah.
he doesn't give out 10s
Yeah.
very easily,
But
so.
I mean, to give us a good, that I would
Yeah.
say I could absolutely, you know, have faith in, it would certainly be one of my strong points of saying that we're getting if they're giving them a good recommendation, and based on all the other information they've given us and we've developed, and, you know, CMS for me is the top pick in my book.
I would agree.
Oh, and one thing Tom
agree.
did say about CMS, he said it's a small firm. Actually, that was one of the things he pointed out to me, small firm, and the principal is at every meeting and is available by email and phone. So they were also worried about other firms' capacities to take on their project, but knowing that they're so accessible. And, you know, he even said it again, that he thinks because the firm is small and just does OPM services, they are very attentive, and if they don't know the answer, they do get back to you right away. So his project currently is ahead of schedule and currently within budget.
Yeah, I think that's a critical, the budgetary things are critical, because today's projects, we see time and time again, these projects coming in, and there's no way we're going back for more money.
Yeah,
and,
well, look at the water, it came, you know, we had 9 million, and we had to go back out and get another 3 million.
Yeah, I think the
Control.
water treatment plant gives us
Yeah,
a
that was
prime
a
example
disaster.
of why we have to be so careful in
I
this,
think
in this
so.
process, and it's an expensive learning tool, but it's something that if we don't pay attention to it, then it's a shame on us.
Exactly.
And I'm
Exactly.
very impressed with CMS, and, I mean, I was impressed with all of them. I wouldn't argue, if we didn't get CMS, if they didn't want to do the job, then one of the others is fine, but
Yeah, they're
they
three
just seem
excellent
to
firms.
fit in with what we want, and I think that we'll find that when it comes time, if we hire them, that we can sit down with them and go through and determine very quickly what do we want to do on the architect process, because they understand time is money. They mentioned that any number of times, so I don't think there's going to be any delays or any holdback on coming up with solutions to any problems we run into.
Okay,
I make a motion to recommend CMS.
You want to make it?
I'll make a motion.
I'll second.
Any further discussion?
Yep.
All in favor?
Aye.
Right. Okay, so at this point, we've completed number 5 on the agenda. Number 6 is, so we do have a recommendation for the finalists, so I can certainly get a memo to the selectmen. We have a brief selectmen's meeting this evening, and I think if we can just update the board to let them know a decision's been made, we can fill them in certainly in greater detail next Monday.
Right.
And if the board agrees at that point, we can get the letter, and the contract's already been written and drafted, reviewed by Town Council Tom Mullen. We can get that over to them to get the process of getting that, executed and get them under contract as soon as possible, so we can begin the next phase.
Excellent.
Yeah, I think tonight if we recommended the board members watch the videos in the next week,
Yep.
check with Keith or Janet and make sure that she can get them out the next day or two. They're going to be edited and put all together, but hopefully within a day or so they can be online, so the members of the public as well as other board members, that would be great, because I think it's essential that unless some problem develops, that we make a recommendation that we hire them next week at our regular selectmen's meeting.
Yep.
Okay.
Excellent.
Okay,
Anything further?
that would be it.
Very good. Take a motion to adjourn.
I Motion to adjourn.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you very much. We're done. Thank you, Keith.
Thanks, Keith.